Okay, so you got negative items on your credit. You got charge-offs, you got collections, you got closed accounts, you got open accounts in bad standing, you got bankruptcies, you got delinquent accounts. So, which items should you take care of? What should you pay off? What should you pay someone to get rid of? What should you wait for it to fall off by themselves? I'm going to give you all the breakdowns on all of the statutes of limitations and expirations on all the different credit types. So stay tuned for that. Okay. Now, of course, we know under the Fair Credit Reporting Act that negative items on your credit can only be on your credit for a limited time. Now, though the time varies depending on what type of account it is. I know people hear a lot about 7 years, but you have to be clear on which accounts do fall into 7 years, and then what exactly does that 7-year period start, because that's the part that you never hear about on many of the social media videos. So I'm going to break that down for you and be very specific so you'll know when you should or shouldn't wait for a collection to fall or a negative account to fall off of your credit. So let's talk about charge-offs first. Okay, basically with a charge-off, so that could be an account that is collection / charge-off. But if it's got the label of charge-off on it, that means that it's been at least 180 days since you first went late on it, went delinquent. And so the statute of limitations for charge-offs is 180 days from when your first payment was missed. So when you first went 30 days late, it's 100. You count 180 days from that day plus 7 years. So on a charge-off account, the first time you went late and then went delinquent after that, 180 days plus 7 years. After 7 years and 180 days, so that's essentially about 7.5 years from when your first payment was missed, it should fall off your credit report. It would be no longer legal for whoever the creditor is to report that on your credit. Doesn't mean that the debt is going to go away, but it should not be on your credit after roughly 7.5 years from the first payment being missed. And it's important to know that, because that 7-year mark, it's important to know where it starts. Now, collection accounts, same thing, 180 days plus 7 years from when the first payment was missed. So that's why you typically see collection and charge off reporting together, because normally they go from collection, then when the creditor finally says we're done trying to collect it, and they tell the IRS we want to charge this off, we want to take it off of our inventory of loans so that we don't have to pay quarterly taxes on it. And that's what the collection is. That's what the charge off status or label is. So again, 7.5 years from when the first payment was missed. That's important to know. That's the date. So that's why we always get that validation and verification, not just to make sure that they can prove things, but so that we can get our date straight, so I will know whether an account is old enough to be removed simply because of that. Okay, the third type is closed accounts that you had in good standing. Now, a closed account in good standing can remain on your credit report indefinitely, and that's a good thing. It's positive information. You want it to stay on your credit. However, usually they remove positive accounts after 10 years after the date of last activity. So after you paid that account off, everything was good, and 10 years later, that's when they remove it from credit. So that was one of the sort of like, not really, it's a closed account, but it's not really a negative account. But I wanted to mention that time that time expiration description also, because a lot of people spend time and money getting rid of old accounts, whether in good accounts, and that's really not where you want to spend your time and attention. The next negative type is debt settlement. So what we're talking about here is an account that you went delinquent with, then you negotiated a debt settlement with the creditor, usually at a discount. And so once you pay them and they discharge the remaining balance, now it's still going to report on your credit, because typically when you, not always, but typically oftentimes when you do a negotiated discounted settlement, the creditor wants to still keep it on your credit because they really want you to come back and pay the whole thing, but they don't have to. If they agree in good faith to a discounted settlement, it can remain on your credit until 7 years after that final discharge. So when you negotiated that, you made the payments and you paid it off, and they discharged the rest of the remaining amount of that debt, that's when the 7-year clock starts. So for instance, if you did a discounted settlement, you made 3 payments of $75 each. So then after the 3 payments, you paid the $225. And then they said, okay, we consider this matter satisfied and settled. Discharge day as of June 2nd or whatever date, this is done. And then now the 7-year clock start. So 7 years from today, that would have to fall off of your credit after the next following cycle, and that would be the end of that. Now with delinquent accounts, these are accounts that are delinquent in some way, shape, form, or fashion. It could be a collection, it could just be 90 days late, 120 days late, something like that, but you caught back up. And so now you got these 30, 60, 90 day lates reporting, but you caught back up, and so then those will stay on your credit for 7 years from when the account first became delinquent. But again, it's still 7 years, but it's important to know when that 7-year clock starts, because a lot of people say, oh, you don't have to worry about it after 7 years, but they don't elaborate on when. That's why I want to elaborate when, because it matters depending on what type of credit account that it is, which is what I said in the beginning. Now let's talk about inquiries. Now credit inquiries, if it's a hard inquiry, it will show up on your credit for 2 years, up to 2 years after the inquiry was made, was authorized. Now it doesn't impact your credit beyond the first 12 months, the first year, but after the second year it'll still show up, but it won't be having an effect on your score. So again, unlike many of the other ones that follow a 7-year plus waiting period or expiration period, inquiries are only 2. Now let's talk about bankruptcies. Pretty common knowledge, Chapter 7 bankruptcies are on your credit for 10 years, and it's 10 years from the filing date. It'll show the bankruptcy as being filed, and then of course in a Chapter 7 it's usually 3 to 4 months later that the bankruptcy, when it was discharged, you have that date as well. But typically it's 10 years. In Chapter 7 it's 10 years from the filing date of the bankruptcy. However, Chapter 13 bankruptcies, you only have to endure that on your credit for 7 years but it's 7 years after the repayment plan ends. Chapter 13 being the repayment plan. Once you go through that whole thing and then you're done, and that's typically, they usually do 48-month cycles. So typically most people go between 3 and 4 years in a bankruptcy repayment plan, but of course it can be whatever it is based on the amounts owed. But Chapter 13, again, 7 years from after the repayment plan ends. So you went through the whole repayment plan, everything was paid off, and then your bankruptcy petition, your case was discharged, and that's when it starts. Now let's talk about student loans. First, defaulted student loans they will stay on your credit up to 7 years from the first date of delinquency, or until you bring the loan current. And so you heard me. So with defaulted student loans, they'll stay on your credit from up to 7 years from the first date of delinquency. It'll be either that, or it could be until you bring the loan current. So if you end up bringing the loan current before that 7 years, then obviously you're good, and it'll just go back to showing positive payment history. And then that negative portion, that negative point in history, would eventually slide down to the end and fall off at the back. Now, of course, Perkins loans, the Perkins loans remain on your credit until they are paid in full. So if you got any Perkins loans, that's how they're going to play out on your credit. And so be aware that I don't see too many Perkins loans anymore, but that's still in effect. And then, of course, private student loans, they remain on your credit up to 7 years after the date of delinquency. So when you first went delinquent on those, and the private loans kind of work mostly like a normal creditor would. So you don't see much different from them than you would on a normal creditor reporting a delinquency to your credit report. So it's important to realize that the credit time clock is an actual statute of limitations as indicated on the Fair Credit Reporting Act. This is law. So the terms and dictates that I just named to you are law. That's legal. The Fair Credit Reporting Act set those in place, and the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau enforces that. So when I'm doing credit analysis for a client, these are the things I look for. These are the things I ask about. And so if that is a possible way for me to help you or a client remove these items from credit. Now, we're not necessarily dealing with the debt and the money that's owed, but the important thing, our focus is we're cleaning up the credit. And so if we can get off of credit, and then you still may get paperwork saying that you owe this debt, that's fine. You can handle it that way. But if it's not supposed to be legally reported on credit due to limitations in, under those statutes, they have to take it off, because these are designed to be the maximum time that items can appear on your credit report. So if you got any questions about what I talked about here, check in the description. You'll see the website. You can go to my website and click on creditrenovatorsllc.net, and you can register. You can sign up and for a free consultation from me. You can once you register, it'll take you to a calendar where you can set an appointment at your convenience. You could also join our webinars on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock, our credit conversations, where we'll talk about all these things and more. You can have questions about that, or you can DM me. Actually, if you want, you can DM me in the Facebook or the social media page attached that this video is featured in, and I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you and discuss this and more as needed. But and lastly, I just wanted to mention that later this week I will be opening up and rolling out my DIY credit software platform, where you'll be able to sign up, register, and join, and you can use the software. It's all your letters and all the directions for working on your credit. It's an AI software that will tell you what to do, and it'll have the tools there, and you can it'll create your dispute letters for you, and then you have the choice to either print them out and mail them on your own, or you can use the electronic service, and you can send to a service that will print the letters for you and mail them to both the creditors and the credit bureaus and the second bureaus as well. So be on the lookout for that. There's a link for that as well. if you have information about that. Or again, that one you should DM me and ask you more. I'm gonna get that. Oh, and I forgot to tell you that that's the access to that software platform is free. It's gonna be free. It will be no charge. This is just a way for you to be able to fix your credit yourself. If you find that me and folks like me are too expensive for you, this is an affordable option. You just got to do the work, but guess what? The system does all the thinking for you. All you have to do is follow the instructions. And it's a way for me to help you fix your credit and fix maybe the little stuff. But if you just follow the directions, it does work. I've had several people in my pilot program. It worked out really well for them. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention too. But I recommend that if you want more information about it, you DM me, or you can email me at hiley@creditrenovatorslllc.net, or just sign up for the weekly webinar and more information comes there. You can even check the replay because I did make a video. I featured a little bit of it just so you guys could see what it looks like. But reach out to me. I guarantee you'll be happy. If someone who's been wanting to fix your credit and not wanting to pay someone to do it for you, yet doing it on your own without the tools and the guidance, I got it for you. So you can do it yourself with real guidance and technology that can help you, and it's free. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for my next one. I'm going to talk more about credit and helping folks get into houses, because I know a lot of my folks out there, they know me from the real estate and mortgage space, and so I want to help you guys that are trying to buy a house. I'm going to have a series for that. But of course, all of these credit items, no matter what you want to improve your credit for, this all works. No matter whether you want to buy a house, a car, start a business, get funding, whatever. Building your credit fixing your credit and building your credit is important, and I have this powerful tool for you. So stay tuned for more on that. Talk to you soon. Bye.